Hey, it's Jason with Incredibly Useful Exercises Volume 10, Whole Fingerboard Mastery, or I'm pretty sure that's the title of this. Let me just get this camera on my head here, make sure I get a good angle. I got my shin in the shot last time, which is kind of a goofy shot. Okay, I think that's gonna work, and we'll just get over here and get my practice app of choice going, Modacity, with a little screen grab. So hopefully all this stuff works. So this is probably the routine out of these. And by the way, maybe it's obvious, but I've filmed all of these incredibly useful exercises in sequence. So this is week 10 of doing these. I am amazed that I've been doing this for 10 weeks. It feels like I just started. It feels like I've been doing it forever. And in a sense, I have been doing this forever because many of these exercises are things that I learned back in the 90s when I was working with Jeff Braditich and learning about how Gary Carr teaches the bass and other people that are known names in the bass universe. So this is the volume that I predict so far going back to the most, although I've found value in every single one of them. And I like how it's like looking at technique through a different lens as you're going through these. So this is, as the title implies, Whole Fingerboard Mastery. This is a comprehensive look, and it reminds me in a lot of ways of routines that I've done throughout my life. So very cool stuff. Again, this is Modacity, my app. I'll have that link down below. Also, this rosin, Leatherwood Bespoke. I'm using the 30% hydration because it's been very hot here in California. It's about 65 degrees right now. It's the first break in the heat we've had in a little while, and the sun is just starting to peek out. So luckily I'm filming this before it gets too hot. But I typically use the 50% hydration, and this 30% has been working quite well. By the way, I shot a course with Discover Double Bass, or two courses actually, in early 2020 before the pandemic hit. And Jeff over at Discover Double Bass is just starting to put out some of the videos. One of them, which I will link up to in the corner if I remember, hopefully I'll remember, is how to rosin a double bass bow. And he, instead of filming with a GoPro on the head like this, it's a totally professionally filmed, multiple cameras video. So if you want to learn about how to rosin a bow, or how I think one might want to approach rosining a bass bow, check it out. So when I forgot to start, my tune rosin gets set. Here, we'll just take a quick... For the last several days, I haven't even been putting rosin on. It's been so hot. That going down to the lower hydration is a good idea for me anyway in warm times. So here, I'll go to tune. Okay, we're doing well. Doing well. And if it's in the green, unless my ear is telling me it's unhappy, I generally say we're good to go. There we go. Ooh, quite sharp. And in hot weather, this extension, by the way, made by Chris Threlkeld-Weigand in Iowa City, Heartland String Bass Shop. Chris makes beautiful extensions and basses. He used to do custom guitars back a while ago. Then he used to work at Robertson and Sons, and I'm just a big fan of both his basses and this extension. The scroll on this bass, by the way, you can see a little bit, if I'm getting an okay angle here, it kind of broke through when Chris put this on, and he knew that would happen. It's because this Jackstat bass I have has an almost cartoonishly flared scroll, so I could probably get that touched up, but I don't think anyone, including me, is ever really looking up there. Okay, so we now start with silence, which I realize is odd for a YouTube video. I like starting my sessions that way. It's been a nice reminder to take a moment for myself. And every single one of these routines, I believe so far, maybe for all of them, has centering in it. And last time I think I dorked it up because I started on E. I've been actually doing exactly what Dennis has here, starting on G, going up to the 5th, and then going back down. And just a quick reminder of what all these are. We start with the feet, so our connection to the floor, and just go up the body. Knees, and I'm always like reconnecting mentally. I'm trying to just like feel that body part and sort of let any tension I'm holding go. Hips, try to just sort of like let that go. Bring my attention to my breath, wherever Dennis indicates. I take as many bows as I am feeling. I let this be pretty loose as I go, and just going up through the body, lower back, shoulder blades. Again, always centering breaths, neck, face. Boy, I find myself, I'm relaxing my neck just talking about it. Then going through the chain of the right arm, beginning with the shoulder, feeling that, at least feeling that connection to the back, and then left arm, bring it back together. And so let's do it, starting on G. Feet, knees, hips, feeling that looseness, breath. Lower back, shoulder blades. Ooh, there we go. Breath. Neck. I'm not trying to be hard on myself with intonation or anything. I'm just giving my body something to do with these notes. Face. Breath. Now we do the right arm, shoulder, elbow, feeling that connection, wrist, all the way back down through my legs to the floor, fingers, breath, left shoulder, left elbow, left wrist, left fingers, ooh, breath, body, arms, breath. And I keep reminding myself, once I get done with these 16, I just don't have bandwidth to do anything besides these days. I'm gonna get back into filming videos about specific aspects of like kind of earlier technical stuff. One that I've been asked about a lot, and I'm gonna try to find a way to answer that as best I can, is trying to not let the bass rest on the thumb in a standing position like I'm doing with a straight end pin like I'm using. And there's a lot to that topic. This video will be far too long if I get into that right now. So again, these I find the 3-note progressive scale. Now we're doing whole fingerboard mastery, so we're going to be connecting in the key of A in this case, although you can do it in any key, any string. And so we're going to connect from the low A all the way up to thumb position A. I'm going to turn a drone on in Modacity. I like doing these with drones. I don't always do it, but I find it keeps me honest, more honest. And again, the 3-note I actually find a bit more challenging than the 4-note because it's an odd pattern. So yeah, I typically don't put a metronome on with these, and I just kind of self-regulate my speed. And I'm going to start relatively slow. You can hear my fingers probably going down, a little finger percussion. But I release. After the finger goes down, I feel that snap, and then I just feel that relaxation going all the way to my core. And now, at this point, my bow is fairly angled, and you can see where I am in terms of relationship to the bridge. Again, I have an extended fingerboard, so your fingerboard probably ends about there, just for perspective. So going on. And now here, if I'm not liking my intonation, I'll probably do it more than twice, like I wasn't loving that. I generally switch to second finger above that D harmonic right there, so that's what I'm gonna do today. The whole steps I always have to take a little extra time on. At that point, that's how close I am to the bridge, and I could even probably be a little bit closer than that. So that tops out the exercise right there. If you're new to this, maybe start with the lower octave, maybe slow it way down when you get to the second octave. Switching to separate bows can often help. And I always find repeating things can help. You could do like... There's something about putting this on a rhythmic grid that is quite helpful to folks, in my experience. So we're gonna find that high A and flip it around. Again, always paying attention to the whole steps. Incorporate third finger. I sometimes use 3, sometimes 4 here. Now I'm back in the world of fourth finger. And finish it off. Oh, center. That feels good. And I forgot to mention, although I think I've mentioned on previous videos, but there's a, he always has that center at the top of the exercise too. I love those. I have memories of doing these at Northwestern University back in the early 90s. I was still in high school with, I don't think Dennis and I overlapped at any of those Jeff Bradisich workshops, but it was, it was an incredible experience. And it's fun to hear like 20 bass players go through this at the same time with varying degrees of intonation. So those are things I always wonder what the other music students or faculty or people thought of as they walked by this hall with these people all like... way up there on the bass. So they're great. Lots of ways to vary them. Like I said, you can repeat them. As you get more advanced, you can do some different rhythms. You can do off the string, I guess, although I never really do that with these. And of course, tempo, get a little more velocity going, which I often do. But I love, and I'm not practicing. I would give myself like maybe a B- in terms of the amount of practicing or the amount of time I'm just letting myself spend on the bass. So I'm taking things maybe a little more on the slow side than I might typically, but I should probably be taking them on the slow side anyway. So that was okay. Ding myself a little for intonation or who knows. Okay, a 4-note progressive scale. I again find this a little bit easier, even though it's a bigger pattern, because we're about to go back into the heat wave. I'm just trying to kind of keep things from getting sticky here with my bass rag. Okay, so I do generally do a drone. I was practicing this yesterday without a drone and realizing I need to have a drone on. So here we go. Again, starting fairly slow. And you can see I'm much flatter with my hair. Maybe not 100% flat. Boy, I need to clean my strings. Okay, but a little bit of tilt to the bow. Yeah, by the way, sorry, I won't get too distracted, but I don't know how well you can see this, but you can actually see little bits of, like, from my bass rag, my awesome Ohio State University bass power rag from Barry Green from last summer, teaching there. Rubbing alcohol will work great on this. Just be very careful if you do that. Well, consult your local luthier, I should probably say. But I have found good results cleaning this stuff off with rubbing alcohol. You just have to be extremely careful not to get it on the belly of the bass. And with global pandemic and all that sort of stuff, I'm just trying to err on the conservative side for lots of things, including bass maintenance. Okay, so 4-note progressive. Again, if I'm not loving the sound or the intonation, or I feel like I need to give it some reps, I just have these like infinite repeat brackets that I allow myself to apply. Always paying attention to more on this direction of shift. This is generally more challenging for folks, me included, so I'm like, that's easier. Okay, happy. Now, I can check that B. I can check that C sharp. The next note's D. I can check that numerous ways. E. There are many ways to check all 4 of those notes, so I try to use what I got to, to check my intonation. Drone, harmonics, recording myself, all that good stuff. So, talking too much? Gotta keep going, Jason. Again, every new position, I'm just getting a little bit closer to that bridge. These whole steps are generally the most challenging for me. And for this position, since I'm standing with this straight pin, I am, without trying to bring my shoulder up, I'm just letting the bass go against my collarbone right here, bowing into the bass, and I'm playing 1-4-1-3. And I actually do have my thumb down in like a traditional position here, but then I'm going to thumb position. But without, I'm not trying to like dance between these two. I'm just like thinking thumb position. Now I go to just using third finger. Generally checking where I can. You know, check, use what I got. Whoops, that was a little out of tune. And if I start to hear a little grit in the sound, maybe I shouldn't have put on that rosin today. Keep going up. Again, I generally switch the second finger up here. Now exclusively 1-2. Whole steps, so I take care. Take all the time I need. Feel free to switch to separate bows. And then flip it around. For many years, and I still think this is quite valuable, as soon as I get to this spot, I would practice and do practice doing everything thumb 1, 2, 3. So it's like this. And so on and so forth, just moving the thumb with each new position. But sometimes you want to do this. So it's good to practice both. The beautiful thing about practicing this way, I think, is you're kind of like taking the low position approach. It's a nice, there's not as sudden a change, I think, in terms of like, it's all 2 notes, 2 notes. I can probably explain this better, but I have to think about it more. And then all of a sudden you're doing this thing that is much more of like I don't know, it's like a bunch of lever configurations up here. So I think this is a great way to do it. And there's so many times when even if you could do thumb 1, 2, 3, there's a better use case for doing the shift. So good stuff. I've been doing this for years. Might not sound like it, but I swear. And yeah, it's good stuff. So time's up. That's true. That was okay. We'll give it a 3. Bow tuners, I have been digging these next few exercises that are things that I haven't typically done. But bow tuners, so the idea is to tuning your bow, placing your bow on the optimal sounding point for each note. So you know, first position near the fingerboard, between the bridge, near the bridge. Keep the tone as beautiful as possible. I'm listening to the sound. I'm trying to get a little, what he calls, or Francois Rabath, and Dennis is mentioning it here, calls the le son premier, my French, oh dear. But trying to keep, Suzuki talks about, has a book called Tonalization, talks about diamond tone, or did talk about diamond tone. So for me, that's like a full sound with just a little bright to it, just a little bit of brightness. That's sort of like a default. Default makes it sound bad, but just sort of like the sound I'm going for. So my general goal when making a sound on the bass is not this. Maybe it is in a Ravel piece, something like that. My goal is also not that. Maybe it is it definitely is in many contexts, but I'm going for something that has body and just a little bit of brightness to it. So again, that, like Dennis describes, that's going to change depending on where you put the bow. And this exercise goes between some extremes. So we start with open string, which is going to be the furthest from the bridge. Fourth position, this is a little closer. Then, and this is hard to tell on the GoPro footage, but I do tilt my bow slightly as I get closer to the bridge. I don't have to. And maybe one day I'll reevaluate that, but I was taught, and it seems to work, that the higher you go, generally, the less hair you want, or the more. The hair might even be all on the string, but I just angle it so the weight is way more on one side of the string. So again, I'll shut up and play. So middle. Now we're gonna really get close to the bridge. First position again. And now that's A. Now A prime, or A1, is going to be the same thing, just adding the E. So D, E, pop it up, take it way up. And now you may have noticed some of those. I let there be what I would call like a slurp. As I miss it. I'm doing a bad example because I missed it twice, but theoretically, I like to do that. I don't do it every time I practice a harmonic shift like that, but I'm trying to keep a connection to the string as I move from place to place on the bass. That's something that's taught in violin pedagogy. Not that you necessarily keep the weight all the way down as you shift. I used to think I did that. I actually think I don't. I remember talking to a friend and colleague, Joanne May, wonderful violin teacher from the Chicago area, presents at a lot of conferences and such. And she talks about it, and she learned this from the violin teacher, Paul Roland, and it's something in Roland pedagogy. They really talk about it's kind of like when you're shifting, you're really kind of like making a bow shape, or we could use this, but you could think of a bow and an arrow a little bit. So you're keeping a connection, but you're not down the whole way, but you're not jumping. That I have limited success with. So again, A2 is going to just fill in some extra notes. So we're going to go, which you can either do a pivot like I'm doing here, or you can do a shift. I don't think it matters too much because the point's more right hand. Up high. Again, I'm taking a little bit of time between each of those positions. I think that's good. I call those thinking pauses or thinking fermatas or that sort of thing. I think is really useful. Okay, trying to be good about Otherwise, I'll endlessly talk until this camera dies. So just keep it moving, Jason. Okay, color and dynamics are different. This is a cool one. This is one that first time I did it, I thought, interesting. Never practiced that. Interesting. I've gotten more into it the more I've done it, and I really try to push the extremes. Dennis talks about always making the tone beautiful and making the string go fat, resist the temptation to play louder as you get close to the bridge, and that is all great. Keeping the same arm weight, and really just changing the placement and the amount of bow. So I am really, over here, I'm really trying to get like a whooshy, that Ravel, I just referred to it, sound. So that's the 3 lines, that's fingerboard. Then the midpoint, I'm trying to get that clarity. So here, hollow. There, that's gonna be the midpoint, and I'm gonna use less bow. So here, now quarter bow, I'm going to use the least amount of bow. And I'm really trying to push my my limits on this. Dennis, I think, talks about I play this exercise often to remind myself how many colors are available to me on the bass. If I haven't practiced for a while, I notice that it's not just my fingers that lose conditioning, but it's also my ear and sensitivity to colors. I really like that line. I think I've mentioned that multiple times in this series. I'm trying to go extreme, and I'm not trying to make my tone ugly, but I might be kind of headed that direction a little bit here and there. So I will shut up and play. So now midpoint, bridge, midpoint, go over to the G string, get that hollow kind of sound, get a little more presence. Now we're on the second line. Get that edge. And, this isn't like the best sound production I've ever done in my life. But I'm really just trying to explore the possibilities of what I can do. Third line, measure 13. There's the centered sound, hollow sound, centered sound. Good. Edge sound. Hollow. Edge. I like how Dennis mixes it up. It keeps it unpredictable. And you could, once you get the hang of this, obviously the sky's the limit. You could do this over scales. You could do this in exclusively thumb position, all sorts of good stuff like that. I think this is a one. Yeah. So couldn't remember. So now he takes you to third position, but you could really play around. So we'll do a little bit hollow. Whoops, I got it wrong. I'm going blind. Oh yeah, centered, middle one. So about half the bow, then hollow. Back to the middle. Now get a little edge in the sound. This is one of these that I find that when I do it, it's like I'm seeing more, noticing more, maybe more options for color. Hollow. Centered. I don't even think I'm doing that great a job here. But I do think I'm getting the benefit, or at least some of the benefit. And then along with our final seconds, we do this harmonic here. So Dennis does take you up to division point of just open string, first position, this position right here, neck position, and now we're here. So now we're going to get that. And the string is going to respond a little differently, of course, because we're doing different string lengths. So you just adjust everything accordingly. And I just have to kind of make sure that I'm keeping a little bend in my knees as I'm kind of think about my overall posture. Make sure to always be thinking about, no matter what I'm doing, going back to that centering exercise that I've done, I guess, on every one of these videos, just thinking about that connection to the floor, whether you're sitting on a stool or standing, that connection is just super important, at least for me, to keep in mind. Okay, I love this exercise. This is another one. I'm gonna give myself a 3.5. I feel like I got some good benefit out of that. Tempo and dynamics are different. This is a really cool exercise. So this one, we're changing dynamics using only bow speed. So we're not trying to change our weight or our placement. And that's a little bit of a challenge because we're going through all these different registers on the bass. I don't quite have this one memorized, but I'm headed that way. Also, this week, I probably won't have time in this video to do this. Maybe I will. I've been doing variations. I've done variation A and B, and both of them present unique challenges, especially variation B, trying to do this with 4 slurred. Whew. Got to keep working on that. Okay, but I'm going to play. From my perspective, it looks to me like right around where this extended fingerboard ends. I'm going to hang out there. And I'm going to change it, not with weight, but with speed. So we start first bar, and I'm not playing these too fast because I'm just trying to give myself time to think about what the goal is for each one of these. Now fortissimo. Pianissimo. So again, Dennis is starting with the extremes. Fortissimo. Pianissimo. Piano. So now we have a little more variation. Forte. Fortissimo. And by the way, a good way to think of these levels, let's just take this line right here. Pianissimo, piano, forte, fortissimo. There's this great book that came out in the 70s from Philip Farkas, which is a wonderful name. He was a French horn player in the Chicago Symphony. I believe he taught at Northwestern University, where both Dennis and I went to school. And Farkas, if you can find this book, The Art of Musicianship, it may be out of print. But if it isn't, I really like his definitions of many aspects of musicianship, but one is dynamics. And so his thing is forte is like a full, like the mezzo, which Dennis isn't including in here, could just have 4 different tone colors. The mezzo is like an unforced sound. Like I would say that I'm talking right now in like a mezzo forte, and then this might be mezzo piano. So for Farkas, forte, you're starting to get that natural characteristic of that instrument. So forte would be like bass. You know, bass has this sort of musky quality to the sound, which sounds like an insult, but it's just got like some funkiness to the sound because of the proportion of the instrument. It's not quite right for the quote unquote right for the string length that you're playing. So that quality of like sort of kind of like that buzziness almost that you get when you really start to like move a lot of air with the bass. I'm trying to get that with forte. Fortissimo, and this is just my interpretation of what Farkas talks about. Fortissimo is really putting your instrument to the borderline of being unpleasant. Like, so if this was a singer, or if I'm talking, this is forte. I'm not going to do fortissimo because my little guy is asleep over there and I don't want to startle him. But fortissimo would be like, think of like a trombone or like a brass section, really getting that full on brassiness to the point where it's like almost unpleasant, like Chicago Symphony, Pines of Rome, or, you know, if you're not a classical musician, that might not resonate as strongly, but, you know, just that kind of quality. Pianissimo is really holding back. So think about like a flute player who's just barely moving enough air across the flute to get the flute to activate. So that's what I'm thinking about as I'm doing these. Okay, so with that massive, but hopefully mildly interesting tangent, let me start the second line one more time. And I'm really going to try this. I'm going to try to barely. Now I just hold back a little bit for the piano. Now forte, just a little bit of that. Fortissimo, Jason. Keep it big. Go back to, whoops, wrong notes. Piano. small. And I have been trying these, I'll go back to the beginning now since I'm running out of time. I have been trying these a little closer to Dennis's tempo, which is 134, and a whole new set of challenges come in. So let me just play there so you can get an idea. That's actually a better tempo for this exercise, which is probably why he wrote it. But I guess I'm in like a reflective mood today. I'm liking these slower tempos, or I just haven't been practicing enough. It's probably more accurate. Okay, how did that go? Yeah, that was okay. I'm feeling okay about my playing today. Maybe, yeah. So string crossing curves, Dennis describes this quite well in his video about this, which just check out his channel, which I have linked up to here. And I've tried like with mixed results to explain this on 2 other videos. So I'm just going to play it and maybe chime in if I have any anything to add. Okay, so here's the first one. I'll put a metronome on just so that we can see what Dennis has outlined here. So this is 92. Let's hear 92. Boom. 1, 2, beginning small curves. Try to keep the camera on my arm as best I can so you can see the difference. Now here's the big curve. Can you see how I have to move my arm a little more with this particular bow direction change? It has to do with the up bows and down bows and just how things work. And by the way, this is reverse small curve. This is reverse on violin, viola, because they're chin instruments. Cello has the same curves. So it's either small curves. You can see it's almost contained with my fingers and wrist. And I don't remember if I'm supposed to do that or not. I have to look at the description, but here I have to involve my arm a little more. There's actually a little bit of raising and lowering motion. I'm going to center. Think about heightening, lengthening, maybe heightening, lengthening. Make sure I'm nice and relaxed. Oh, crack the back just a little bit. Okay, so we are in measure 25, thumb position, 4th position in Roboth technique, whatever you want to think of it. So my bow's tilted just a scooch. I'm a little bit closer to the bridge. Here we go. Measure 25, small curves. Ready, go. And it's just, for me, just fingers and wrists. See how little the arm is basically not involved. So, now, big curves. It might be impossible to see on this GoPro. Also, I don't have it memorized, so I can't. Maybe that comes through. I think it does. So there's just a little bit of this motion in the big curve. Small curve is all right there. Okay, small curves, measure 37. Big curves, last line. Come back, center. And I am just now, as I'm talking here, am I doing this right? Keep, during the string crossings, keep the right forearm and wrist quiet and neutral. Lead the string crossings with the elbow. I think I'm doing that right. I'm going to go with I'm doing that right. Be careful of a major technical weakness called doorknobbing, a twisting motion in your right forearm when you change strings. Yeah, I don't think I do that. I have worked with many people who have. I got to think about that. I got to check out. Oh, by the way, this book, Caroline Emery is awesome, by the way. Bowworks right here. This book is really cool. I've actually done an interview with Caroline about this book, which I may remember to link up to. But if I don't, just look up Caroline Emery and on YouTube and it'll come up. Or the internet. Or just go to Bowworks. I think it's bowworks.com. Okay, great. that's coming along. I like that exercise. Frame survey. Here's another one that like, I never did this and now I love it. And I do it all the time, even when I'm not practicing in these sequences. So it's, and I've done it many times here, so I'll keep my description brief, but it's just taking the Roboth Vance positions, which I'm a fan of for teaching. Though when I'm actually like playing a gig, I don't know that I think of the bass in these positions. But I love teaching in these positions and I love practicing on these positions. I don't know that I don't know, and I do think it really has helped a lot of students. And I think my teaching got better when I started using these positions, which I've talked about a billion times on this channel. So just real quick, first position, which just about everybody and their dog can, I shouldn't say the word dog or he'll wake up, but everybody kind of can agree on that. Then nobody can agree on any of the others, but that's okay. So first position, second position, harmonics are there. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth, everything else. Frequently harmonics. Okay, so we're going to run this exercise, which I really love. It makes not a lot of sense harmonically, but it makes all the sense if you play in these positions. Okay, I'm going to kind of rip through this moderately fast because I'm feeling like playing something a little faster. Okay, here we go. I think I jacked that up somewhere. What did you do, Jason? Let's see. Oh yeah, here's where I dorked it up right there. Okay. That's what I get for playing fast. I'll start in fourth position right here and reduce the speed a little. Okay. Like da da dee da. I'm still screwing something up. Oh, yeah. I love that exercise, and it doesn't even really matter if I screw that up because the point is not necessarily like, well, when not that I need to make excuses, but I think I've been doing this without the music, and I think I've been doing this slightly differently, but it doesn't matter. It's the idea, and you could do variations on all of these. You could do them slurred, right? And you could probably hear, or I'm guessing you could hear, I was taking my time between some of these. Just to sort of establish a new position. I also sometimes will practice like to try to like open up that position right there. I like how Dennis takes it over to the E string, which I rarely play on the E string this high, even harmonics, but I mean, it's good to do. And anything you practice on the E string, it's like butter moving over to the other strings. So very cool exercise. That I never even thought to do before I discovered these series. Virtuoso Arpeggios, again, there's a lot of, just personally, there's a lot of fun in this volume 10. So I'm really digging this, and it's timing out normally. How long have we been going here? And again, I don't generally talk extend. Yeah, 45 minutes. Yikes. This has generally been timing in under a half hour for me, and it could easily go over, but that's just, that's how it's been working for me. Just for the sake of time, I'm only going to do these once, which means you'll hear the pattern twice, but you can, crank out on them as many times as you like, obviously. So this is great for almost all solo bass music, especially 19th century solo bass music that you'll ever play. So, and you can hear that little connection sound. intentionally trying to get. Now, third line, we're up in 6th position, this harmonic position, whatever you call it. Now, for B, we're connecting this region with this region. No, sorry, we're connecting this region with this region. So up to, from the open string up to here, and then C, we connect the whole, and then the second half, sorry, I'm sort of getting jumbled. Then the second half, we connect these positions. So first half, second half of B, then C connects them all. Okay, so here's B. And I'm playing pretty out of tune on that note, which is the challenge note, for me at least, that F sharp. So I might repeat it a few times. And I would do the same thing with the B, although that was fairly in tune. So I'm going to go on. And with time, most people find that they just sort of learn just to open that hand up the right amount of space. That's what I found. So now C connects. Oh wait, did I do this? No, I didn't do the second half. Yay! It's almost lunchtime, so my brain is not firing. And again, I would probably loop that a few times to touch on that spot. Now C, we connect them all. Oh, that was too bad to go continue. So I'll slow it down a little bit. Especially the moment where you know what? Ooh, let's give that one another shot. Go over that even more, or I probably would. And I like this little closeout move. It's like hello positions. And then you close it out there. You can do variations on those. They're great. And then vomits, the last of these exercises, which is something I've I don't know why. I think I don't enjoy practicing these, which is why I think I've let them go, but they're good for you. That's why everybody practices them. So I have been realizing the benefits of that, getting into these. By the way I tie all of these exercises now, so now this is in B flat, which is very practical for demonstration purposes because you can start on 1, you can start on 2, you can start on 4, start on 3 if you want. A, it's not, you wouldn't play A with 4. I generally tie the progressive scales and the vomits and just slow scales in general that I'm practicing into the same key. So if I was on the key of B flat, I would practice all those things in B flat. If I was on the key of F, I'd play them all in F, and that determines where you do them. So if we were in F, what I would probably do, instead of starting up here, is I would do this pattern, but on the D string. And then what I generally do, I think I learned this from Jeff Braditich, and I've taught this to many students, so apologies if this is a bad approach, former students. I repeat each one twice or more. And then what I do not do, again, don't know if it's good or bad, what I generally just feel like I'd rather like fling myself into the ocean rather than do all of these finger combinations every day. It's just I just so I will, if I'm feeling up to it, play it 4 times, choosing a different bass note, low note, finger. So day 1, I would do 1, and I would go up and do 1, 1, 1, 2, and then I combine 3 and 4. So what I do is, where it's practical to play 4, I play 4. Where it's practical to play 3, I play 3. And even though I generally wouldn't do 3 all the way up high, I will practice up with 3. What I do when I'm in more of a hurry, which is like almost every day, not that this is good or bad, but this is just being honest here, is I combine all of these into like one. And so what I do is I'll keep the low note the same, and I'll change that on a daily basis. But what I will do is this. I will go. Oh, and by the way, I'm fast forwarding just to make this video not too long. I'm not, this is way too fast. So let me slow down a little bit. So I'm on 1, 1. Now I go to 2 for the top note. And I go up, and then when I get to the top, I go to 3 all the way back down, and then once I hit the F, I do 4. So I'm doing the exercise once, generally practicing it 2 times or more for each interval, and I'm just switching up the top note finger. And I feel like I get a lot of the benefit without, and it makes it more palatable, so I do it more, which is something for me to consider anyway. The one more thing, I could play through all this right now, but I'm feeling more talky than play, I guess, today. The thing that this is Gary Carr. I've heard Gary Carr, apologies Gary if I'm misquoting you, but I've heard him say that this is more of a right hand exercise than a left hand exercise, which seems strange until you really start to think about it, and the amount of bow control it takes, and especially as you start to get to these varying string lengths. And actually, with that in mind, I feel a little bit more justified in like doing the shortcut finger I was talking about, because if we're focusing primarily on the right hand, maybe doesn't matter so much. But the last thing I want to mention about these is when we're doing the first shift. So I'll do 1, 1. These 2 string lengths, B flat and C, are essentially the same, right? They're a few inches different, but they're essentially the same. By the time we get from here to that B flat, there's a radical difference in string length, right? So here's this, and then this. If we don't change anything, and we have good placement, that sort of middle of the road sound here, we get one of 2 things. We get this. You're just out of bow, or people will get this sort of like mangled sound. So what can you do? There are a couple options, and option 1, which I don't recommend or practice myself, would be to change the bow placement between the 2 notes, from an ideal bow placement here to an ideal bow placement here. The problem is we add all this string slidey distortion noise, which is, there are ways to kind of work the bow that I could do in some more advanced video, to let the bow go crooked, but I don't want to get into that now. What I do with these is every time I go up an interval, I move my bow slightly closer to the bridge. So I want the placement to be perfect for that top note. So what that means is it's going to be pretty close to the bridge for the low note. So I'm going to have to move my bow slower as a result. So whereas from B flat to C, I'm basically using half the bow for each. Because I moved the bow so close to the bridge for the octave shift, I'm now only using about that much bow for the low note and the rest for the high note, and that gets more radical as you go up. Okay, I'm going to move on because I've been talking quite a bit here. To silence. All right, that's gonna do it for another set of incredibly useful exercises. Thank you for hanging out with these. So yeah, again, 10 of 16, so I got 6 more of these to go. I'm looking forward to filming in a different way, but than a camera on the head. Although I think it's kind of fun to do these this way. Hopefully you're enjoying these. If you've made it to the end, you are a true fan, or you're tied to a chair and can't change the YouTube video. Regardless, thank you so much. Dennis's series, I'm a big fan of. That's obvious. That's why I'm devoting months of going through these. I think these are really cool. I think this one might be the most comprehensive, which is why it's called Total Fingerboard Mastery. Obviously. So far, looking forward to next week and digging in. And yeah, be safe. We'll talk soon.